A bike company deleted a legend's name from its catalogue and then sent $200,000 to a charity to make the fight go away. That wasn't a refund. That was the final scene of a 15-year marriage breakdown. A marriage between Trek and Greg LeMond. Why did it end there? Why would America's biggest bike brand and America's only Tour de France winner torch each other in public, only to close the book with a donation? Today we're going to follow the receipts, the contracts, the press statements, the court filings, and the cultural weather system that turned a licensing deal into one of cycling's most dramatic ever breakups. By the end, you might see why this wasn't really about bikes at all. It was about power. It was about silence and who gets to tell this story. In 1995, Greg LeMond, he was more than a bike rider. He was a symbol, the first non-European to win the Tour de France. 3 yellow jerseys, 1986, 1989 and 1990. A comeback from near-fatal hunting accident that looked impossible until he makes it happen. Greg LeMond's marginal gains before marginal gains were cool. Early carbon fibre adopter, tri-bars in that iconic TT, little edges that changed big races. Now enter TREK, a Wisconsin manufacturer trying to own the American road racing scene. A deal is simple. TREK designs, builds and distributes LeMond branded bikes. LeMond brings the name, he brings the credibility and he brings that story. This partnership, it works. Through the late 90s, you could walk into a shop anywhere in America and see steel classics and race-sharp carbon fibre bikes bearing the LeMond logo right beside TREK bikes. Internally, TREK is calling the LeMond line one of the fastest growing road brands in the US. This isn't vanity merch, it's a meaningful pillar in TREK's bike portfolio. Then the sport shifts. The EPO era has entered its final scene, or so we thought at the time. With the dramatic 1998 Tour de France Festina affair, it kind of came to a climax. Now we go into 1999. This is billed as a fresh start, a blank page, a new era. I think they even called it the Redemption Tour. The public wants heroes. They're sick of this old era, and a new hero, he emerges right on cue. Enter Lance Armstrong. His first tour win in 1999 after surviving cancer. You couldn't write this story. It was so perfect. Charismatic, TV ready, and importantly, riding a TREK bike. For TREK and its dealers, this is rocket fuel. But behind the story, in the shadows, there's a secondary story. A story that's only really whispered. And a name, Dr. Michele Ferrari. This was a name already raising eyebrows. And Greg LeMond, never shy about sports integrity, says the quiet part out loud that other people only dare to whisper. In 2001, he tells journalist David Walsh, "If Lance is clean, this is the greatest comeback in the history of sport. If he's not, this is the greatest fraud in the history of sport." That sentence is the first hairline crack in the TREK LeMond metaphorical frame. The frame hasn't broken at this point, but the stress is now baked into the structure of this relationship. Now let's stop for a second and just imagine your TREK. Your signature line carries LeMond's name. Your sales are rocketing off Lance Armstrong's wins. Those two reputations are colliding, but you have an internal decision to make. Who do you protect? There's really no easy answer here. The years roll past, 99, 2000, 2001. Armstrong just keeps winning. He won't stop winning the Tour de France. He'd go on to win 7 consecutive tours. American fans are setting alarms for all through July, early morning to get out of bed and watch the Tour de France. TREK's brand heat is off the charts. The LeMond line keeps moving too, but the temperature inside this triangle, LeMond, TREK, Armstrong, it keeps rising. Behind closed doors, TREK keeps trying to keep the peace. Their message to LeMond could be paraphrased as, talk doping if you have to, but do not name names. Especially do not utter the name of the guy who's riding our bike, winning the Tour de France and standing on the top step of the podium in the Champs-Élysées year after year. LeMond believes you don't fix a culture of silence by whispering. He keeps speaking openly and plainly. Now, everybody has a version of what transpired. Armstrong denies putting pressure on TREK to shut up LeMond, but LeMond later says that he did feel that pressure and it most certainly existed. This is what a strained partnership sounds like. Sharp edges, different memories, but no clear defining tape to know who said what at what times. It's all very fuzzy, but we do have some clarity. In 2004, LeMond again criticises Armstrong's Ferrari connection, and it blows up really publicly this time. Headlines, clarifications, and more strain. Then the fight moves on to something that looks boring, but it really matters. Distribution. By 2007, LeMond says Trek is retaliating by under-promoting his brand, especially in France of all places. In his later complaint that was filed with the court, which we'll get onto in a second, one figure jumps off the page when I read it. $10,393 in LeMond branded sales in France over a 6-year period. Like, it's astonishing low. Is this an accounting error or is this deliberate neglect? The signal is super clear. Like, this is Greg LeMond, the man who won the 1989 Tour de France in Paris on the Champs-Élysées, beating Fignon by just 8 seconds. In France, of all places, his bikes should be absolutely flying off the shelves, yet they've barely sold at all. Now, zoom out. Cycling in the 2000s, it sells one narrative. A clean, invincible comeback story. Cleaner than clean, the all-American hero. That story lifts the whole industry. It lifts everybody attached to it. But LeMond's telling a different story. There's rot under the paint. On April 8, 2008, it finally snaps. Trek announces it's ending its relationship with LeMond Racing Cycles and dropping LeMond bikes. The public rationale, LeMond's pattern of statements damaged both LeMond's brand and Trek's broader business. Trek heads to court to terminate the license. LeMond answers the same day with his own federal suit in Minnesota. His claim flips the narrative totally. Trek sabotaged his brand because he spoke out about doping, especially Lance Armstrong and Michele Ferrari's relationship. The European underpromotion becomes Exhibit A in this whole courtroom battle. France is the headline example of how he says he was mistreated. Now, the positions are irreconcilable. Trek's view, we protected our business. Your repeated public comments damaged the brand. We're done. LeMond's view, you punished me for telling the truth and choked my brand to make the problem go away. A jury trial is set for March 1st, 2010. The only American Tour de France winner versus the leading American bike company. This is personal. It's somewhat philosophical. No doubt it's expensive for both sides and it's headed to the courtroom. Except it never gets to the courtroom. And the way it ends tells you what both sides feared most. A month before jury selection, the lawyers head to mediation. Behind closed doors, they weigh the cost, the risk, the discovery, the reputational fallout, and the nightmare of losing control of this narrative in the cycling media. And on the 1st of February 2010, they settle. The public terms are short and sharp. The case is dismissed with prejudice permanently. Greg LeMond was to regain rights to his name and brand. Trek donates $200,000 to 1in6.org, a charity co-founded by LeMond supporting male survivors of childhood sexual abuse. No damages to LeMond personally. No admission of wrongdoing by either side. Press releases they're disappointing. We'll call them polite. Press releases are polite. Everybody moves on. But that donation line sticks. It reads like a message inside a message. Legally, it's over, but stories don't end like that. Stories don't end just because the hammer is dropped in a courtroom. LeMond has his name back. What do the Giro d'Italia, Stage Slayer, Mads Pedersen and half the professional peloton have in common? Well, they're all turning to Nomeo, the natural performance enhancer proven to reduce lactate buildup during intense efforts. In the 2025 Giro d'Italia, Pedersen's form was undeniable. The Danish star surged to 4-stage victories. This was a major leap in form from his previous season, and a key part of this preparation and performance was Nomeo. Developed by the same researchers who discovered the performance power of dietary nitrate. You know those beetroot shots that half the peloton were using? Nomeo is clinically proven to lower lactate levels, reduce oxidative stress, improve training adaptations, and deliver a noticeable boost from the very first time you take it. Riders are reporting bigger threshold power, fresher legs mid-race, and quicker recovery, all from a formula made with just 3 natural ingredients: broccoli sprouts, lemon, and sugar. Whether you're racing at the front or you're smashing local segments, Nomeo helps you get more out of every ride. Take it before key sessions or races for an immediate edge, or take your training to the next level and get more out of your hard work. Go to drinknomeo.com, that's Nomio, and check out this game-changing supplement. Details are in the episode show notes or description down below. In 2013, he re-emerges at Interbike with a limited run of time-built frames. It's small but pointed. The down tube says once more LeMond. Later he pivots into a beautifully designed Carbon City e-bike. Slightly different market, same eye for detail. Trek keeps on being Trek. Dominant, innovative, absolutely everywhere, except now it obviously doesn't carry that LeMond line. The Armstrong era keeps paying dividends for absolutely everybody in cycling. His legacy grows, the mystery of how he came back from this, it continues to have subplots to it until 2012. And USADA's reasoned decision lands. Boom! This just rocked the foundation of not just cycling, but sport. Armstrong's myth collapses under testimony and evidence. The 7 Tour de France titles disappear. And then in 2013, Armstrong goes on Oprah and he confesses live on TV. Do you remember those yes or no questions? Oh, they were sending shivers down my spine. In hindsight, LeMond's earlier comments look less like troublemaking and more like an early warning sign. And that reframes the 2010 exchanges. Maybe it wasn't just breach of contract housekeeping. Maybe it was an industry trying not to hear something it would be forced to hear anyway. For a second, think about what if those revelations had landed before 2008? Would Trek and LeMond have stayed partners? Would the business calculus have changed if the hero story had already cracked? It's interesting to think about. To understand Trek versus LeMond, you have to understand the operating system cycling was running during that era. Hardware in this story, it's bikes, it's kits, it's helmets. Software, it's the stories we're told. And the 2000s ran one dominant program, the American comeback that conquered France. That narrative, it sold bikes, helmets, ad space, and importantly, attention. But when a whole industry leans on a single story, it becomes fragile. Now, if you threaten that story, threaten that myth, even with the truth, there's pressure to mute you, and not through some grand conspiracy, but through thousands of small, pragmatic choices that keep the music playing. Licensing partnerships amplify this fragility. They're built on shared reputation. If one partner's speech endangers the monetization of another partner's golden story, the accountants and the lawyers show up. That's not unique to cycling. It's how fashion, entertainment, and tech work. Cycling just adds national myths and personal heroism, and that makes sparks. That intrigues people. It gives us that curiosity. We talk about Trek and LeMond like they're just logos, but behind those names are real people making impossible choices. Executives protecting jobs, lawyers managing risks, dealers explaining to customers why a line vanished. A rider who nearly died came back and believes saying the hard part out loud is now part of his job. And then there's the 1in6.org. That donation wasn't just paperwork. It showed what mattered to LeMond beyond racing. When I was reflecting on this whole story, 3 hard takeaways kind of hit me. Stuff we can take from this whole mess, and maybe even some lessons you can learn yourself. 1, contracts don't stand alone. You can write the perfect deal, but it will always live inside the culture around it. In the 2000s, that culture was doping denial, and no contract could protect against that. Secondly, silence is a choice. When somebody asks you not to name names, that's a decision point. LeMond spoke up anyway, and it cost him, but it wasn't an accident. 3, sentiments don't erase stories. A case dismissed in a courtroom, it closes the file, not the meaning. The missing downtube logo, the donation, the polite press releases, those parts of the story, they last. And maybe this is a bonus one if you want, But if you challenge a profitable narrative in any walk of life, make sure you bring proof. Make sure you keep your tone calm and you don't get into it and be emotional like Greg, and walk through the evidence with people. That's how you change minds without becoming a target yourself. Now, I'm left wondering about the other ways this story could have played out. What if USADA's reasoned decision lands in 2006 and not 2012? Does TREK cut the cord in 2008? Or does LeMond become the conscience that they elevate? Also, if LeMond stays quiet, the line survives deep into the 2010s, but what's the cost of that silence? For the sport? For the fans who face the truth later anyway? It's interesting to think about. Roadman, whether you're a weekend warrior or a world tour rider, the right tools can make all the difference. Enter 4i's Precision 3 Plus Power Meter, the latest innovation from 4i, designed to help you reach peak performance. The Precision 3 Plus Power Meter is a compact yet powerful unit. It weighs just 9 grams and it's packed with features that set it apart, including integration with Apple's Find My network, giving you the peace of mind by letting you track your power meter wherever it is. Plus, you've got up to 800 hours of battery life. We all know that accuracy is key, and 4i's delivers a groundbreaking plus or minus 1% accuracy thanks to their unique 3D strain gauge technology. For those seeking even more data, the Precision 3 Plus Pro Power Meter offers dual-sided power meter metrics, giving you detailed insights into pedaling efficiency, torque effectiveness, and left-right balance. 4i's offers versatile product options to suit your needs. Choose from ride-ready power meters with pre-installed units on Shimano cranks, or opt for factory-installed power meter where you send in your crankset for a custom installation. Ready to elevate your cycling game? Trust 4i's Precision 3 Plus Power Meter. Precision, performance, and peace of mind all in one. Learn more by visiting 4iiii.com. That's 4iiii.com. I'm going to put that in the description down below. In the end, TREK and LeMond avoided the courtroom. They avoided the binary verdict. But what they couldn't avoid was the question we started with. Why would a company and a legend burn each other in public? The answer is that this was never just about bikes. It was about power, it was about silence, and about who gets to tell the story of cycling. LeMond paid the price for speaking too early. TREK paid the price for betting on the wrong hero, and the sport eventually paid the price for its silence. If you enjoyed this video and you're enjoying these deeper dives, the head-to-head business war style content, please let me know in the comments down below what clash or business wars that you'd like me to evaluate next. Please take 1 second to subscribe to the channel up here, like the video, and there's another video up here which I think you will enjoy.